At first I thought, like, is it going to take elements of the other photo? But it doesn't. It just comes out with a whole new image altogether. And
That's
it's
bonkers.
insane, man. Like, look at this. Let's put a river in here. It's a whole new skill set in and of itself, because as I was sort of explaining this to you in the pre-show, yeah, I mean, look at that. It's flawless. And the best thing about all of this is, like, none of this is destructive as well, right? So I can go back and go through any of these and be like, okay, I actually did like that one better. And also that hat, I kind of actually like that hat a bit better. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I am indie developer Vin Hill, and I am joined, as ever, by the other indie developer, Christopher Jarvis.
Hello.
So today we are going to talk about some industry shifting software that's coming about, because we can't really ignore it.
Game-changing marquee tool
Pun
of
intended.
doom. Yeah. Yeah, Vince just showed me before we came on, and it's scary.
Yeah, it's something that's going to affect not just our industry, but a bunch of other stuff as well. But it's an interesting tool for indie developers, but also we are going to talk about our usual video gaming stuff. We know Nintendo had a Direct, and what else are we talking about? What else is on the list?
Xbox and PlayStation are in court over the Activision deal, and
No, they are.
everyone's playing Final Fantasy 16.
They are, and I am not, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I'm not. But yeah, so where do you want to start? Like, what we chipping away at?
I want you to show me the Photoshop tool, because you showed me a little while ago, and I was just mesmerized. And I think this would be something that people wouldn't have seen before. They would have seen Mid-Journey images, and they would have seen text to generate images. But this new Photoshop beta, what's it called? Generate Fill.
Yeah, generative fill. So to give some context behind this, right? So there's in the past we've had things like Mid-Journey where you have a prompt, you type it into text, and then the text is like, okay, I'm going to read. The AI reads the text and then it interprets it into an image for you, which they've been getting better and better over the past year. And we talked about it about a year ago when we first got our hands on Mid-Journey and just how crazy it was. Something that I mentioned at the time when we were first testing that out was that it's not really going to affect much until we get to the point where we can sort of select individual parts and be like, okay, I just want you to change this bit, or I just want it like this, but twist it around and do this and maybe change that a little bit. We've been waiting, and now it was Photoshop of all people, which is probably like the worst and the best people to do it.
Yeah.
It's the worst because it's going to affect our industry the most, but what that basically means is you can have an image, select a portion of it, and ask the AI to make a change to that portion. And the results that you get from it are just kind of flawless for the most part, like especially when it comes to photos. And I think that's where like the beta for Photoshop, like the new version of it, is really powerful, is for photorealistic stuff. But over time, it's going to get more and more stylized for more painterly stuff. But okay, then what the hell does that mean, and why is that important to the games industry? It means that it's that one step closer to sort of replacing concept artists a little bit. Because
Give us an example.
now you're
Us an example.
Oh yeah, sure. So let me share my screen here real quick. Share screen.
Vin has been a concept artist for over a decade.
Yeah,
About a decade
now.
Worked for Ubisoft for a long time, multiple countries, and so he knows his stuff when he's talking about concept artists as a job. And their role is
just talking out my ass.
Yeah, their role is to create as many pictures as quickly as possible in order to facilitate game director in realizing a vision for a game. I guess is that an accurate way to do the elevator pitch of what a concept artist is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's fair.
And so the quickest way you can generate accurate images, the better. Now we've got these AI tools, and they can facilitate so much better. So say you have a brief in, it's like, can you draw me this sort of landscape at this sort of aspect ratio?
Yeah.
Go.
So
what would you do?
I'll give you an example first, like just to show you the capability of this thing in terms of just like the overall quality. So there's this. If we found this image on the internet or whatever, say you were given a reference by your art director, for example. Why is this all? Sorry, let me get this back in here. There we go. So if you're given a sort of brief from your art director, like we want this, but we need like a whole panorama or something. So starting off really super basic, all we have to do is make a selection, and then it comes up with this text prompt down here, and I can sort of describe what I want to do, or I can just leave it alone. I'll leave it alone just for this first example to give you like the cleanest version. So what it's going to do is when I hit generate, it's going to have this loading bar, but what it's basically doing is calculating, it's going to assess all the things around it. So because the selection is sort of overlapping the picture a little bit, it's going to look at that picture and say, okay, person wants me to sort of continue this on, so I'm going to take all that information and sort of figure out a new image from left to right. So it's going to sort of just generate this out of the top of its head for the most part. At first I thought, like, is it going to take elements of the other photo? But it doesn't. It just comes up with a whole new image altogether. And as you can see, it's kind of insane, like how sort of flawless it is.
Even the
you can notice
clouds.
like on this, exactly right. So like it's put clouds in on this side, and there was no clouds really over here. Different shaped clouds. The mountain ranges are different shapes, but it's taken all this information, and it's kind of flawless. And all of this is a new image. Like all of this is made up just based on this side of the image. So to give you an example, it goes. That's where the seam was, the cut. You can barely notice the difference.
Barely tell where the seam is.
Yeah, but the really powerful thing about this is that it gives you a few different versions of it as well. It's not just this one. It's generated actually 3 versions, so we can look at different versions and see what else it's pulled up. And it's bonkers. Insane, man. Like, look at this. It's put a river in here.
Oh my gosh. And how did it know? And it just used the tiny bit of the water on the front to go, oh, this must be water, therefore we can have lots of water in this other image.
So it's extended it out. But again, it isn't just about that, because we can do this with Midjourney for the most part, and DALL-E I think also does it. But we can sort of extend this and say, okay, let's make actually like this a proper river now that I've sort of seen it, right? Ignore my selection here because I'm working with a trackpad on a mouse, which isn't the greatest thing in the world. So with just like a basic selection like that, you can do river. We'll hit generate and see what else it comes up with. See if it can actually like make a decent looking river from that, even though it's like a really loose sort of selection, right? Like it's not anything fancy. But this is where it becomes really powerful, because when you start getting feedback from an art director or something, right? And they're like, oh yeah, that's cool, but can we change that and flip that? Because that's like 90% of the job is just getting that feedback and being able to change stuff on the fly. An error has occurred. Okay, great. So no, it's made a fool of me. Like everything's run through the internet as well. That's another thing. So it might be struggling because we're on a podcast as well. So like again, this is all beta stuff though as well. So we don't actually know if the final version is going to be like this. It might get faster. It might get better. It might be able to utilize like the internet connection a little bit better and really figure that out. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I've been playing around with this for the last few days, and it's just not working now because of my internet. Well, it was working before, but there it is. Anyway, but you'll be able to edit this down and make me look less like an idiot because the internet's like failing on me.
Have you got the previous examples?
Yeah. Maybe we could do something like this, where like the idea is like being able to add certain things as well, right? So we can put a plant in this or something and just see how it looks. Because these are sorts of prompts that you would get right from an art director anyway, is this idea of like, hey, can you add this? Hey, can you change that? So these are the tests that I've been doing over the last few days just to see how well it does with that sort of stuff. And it just comes up with stuff like that, right? So I've put a plant in there and it's perfect. And there's other versions that I can use as well.
Oh my god. And you've got 3 different plants to choose from. Oh no! And it knows where and it's looking at where it knows where the shadow should be as well.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that shadow to the left-hand side, so it's detected where the light source is in the room as well.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty insane.
But
we can extend that further, and just figure out, like, you can also combine stuff that you've already got as well. So there's these 2 images, and we can sort of see like how well it does sort of trying to merge these things together. And these are the sorts of tests, these are the sorts of things which was missing from Midjourney, was this idea of being able to add to stuff, being able to combine images, making composites that are convincing. And this is stylized as well, so I'm not sure like how well this will actually come out, but just trying to see what these can do. So for photorealistic concepts alone, like, this is a game changer. But for stylized stuff, I think Photoshop's still got a little bit way to go, and that's where Midjourney does have like an edge.
Okay.
But it's stuff like this for games development and stuff, like it's gonna allow people to, oh, this is terrible. Like, it could have done a better job than this.
Yeah.
But yeah, never mind. But yeah, the background was pretty good.
But you can see the background bit. It's just the square of the yellow. It's gone. I think that what you're trying to do is keep the yellow square, and it did a good job of that. But yeah, you've extended out the Mona Lisa, which is just mind blowing, and it looks good, doesn't it? And you can get those rocks, and you can put something in there. And it's just...
So I can just get rid of them, or like make a new selection, and you just build upon it this way as well. This is the really interesting thing about all of it. It's not just that you're adding stuff or removing stuff. It's sort of analyzing the image and really thinking about how to combine these things and really sort of figure it out. And yeah, it's kind of huge. Like, a lot of people are sort of sleeping on this at the moment, but I think as this gets released into the full version of Photoshop, because it's just in the beta version at the moment, it's going to really sort of expand out. I mean,
you just made them disappear.
Yeah, and that's pretty flawless.
And you've got options to choose from. It's just
yeah. So kind of insane for the most part. It's actually really nuts.
It's given you that iterative cherry picking ability that was missing from previous things. So if you're proficient in Photoshop, which all concept artists will be, you're now got that ability to iterate based on whatever you select. So
I mean, that's
as well.
That's the thing more than anything. It's that sort of iterative thing, where you're like, I want to change this and play around with that and mess with this. So everyone sort of becomes an art director in that respect. Like, you remove the need for the concept artist and you become an art director almost. Like, you're telling the AI to sort of make the things for you, and you're just giving it very specific feedback. But it's a whole new skill set in and of itself, because as I was sort of explaining this to you in the pre-show, I mean, look at that, it's flawless.
Oh,
there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bananas. So, like, even though I can come up with like individual elements that look really cool, if it doesn't fit the style, like, we all have to learn how to make a cohesive sort of vision now, rather than getting really good at individual sort of things, because now the computer can just do that for us. We need to sort of take a step back and be art directors in that respect, and sort of really think about the entire project and how all these elements sort of fit together, and is it cohesive overall, rather than individual elements, because the individual elements might look good individually, but it might not work as a whole thing now. So it's going to become a different problem in that respect. But it's fascinating stuff. Like, it's really interesting to see, like, how quickly it can sort of change, and the industry is definitely going to change, maybe for the worse, maybe for the better. I'm not too sure yet.
You're going to give her a hat.
It's sure.
Let's try. No. This is
again,
almost.
because it's stylized stuff, right? Like, we don't know if it. I'm never too sure if it actually works with painted stuff, but for photos, what I've messed around with, like, it's been pretty flawless so far. Because ultimately, that's what Photoshop is for. It's for photo editing and stuff. And if you're a photographer and you can just remove something out of someone's hand, like, it's super easy to do. Or you can change what they're wearing, or you can give them a hat or whatever. Like, if someone's hand's in their face,
That's done an okay job. At least with a hat. That's almost in keeping with like oldie worldy Venetian.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
That is absolutely bonkers. And the lighting is they've taken the lighting from the actual image as well, and what are you going to do there? A tie.
Yeah, give her a try, see if it works. I thought this the thing. Like, this is what I was doing for like 5 hours yesterday. Is just messing around with this and sort of seeing how far I could push it, and sort of see, because this is basically what you'd be doing as a concept artist. Instead of doing this, though, you'd be hand painting it in, and it would take you an hour just to try something, you know. But now it takes seconds almost. So it's kind of insane that we're able to do this just on the fly now. Like, yeah, it's lost the style a little bit, but. Yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, perfect. That's what I wanted. And then on top of that as well, you can add... so if you've made one of these selections, like on the right-hand side over here, so I really like the look of this one. I think it's cool. So I'm just going to tell it, like, generate me more based on that as well. So it's building off itself now.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you want me to do more that kind of look like this one already. So it'll take that in information and then also analyze what's around it and then come up with even more options for me.
Yeah.
And you can just go on and on and on and on until you really fine tune exactly what you want. And it goes the same for pretty much anything.
And you've got control over these selections. You can see in the bottom right hand corner, it's made mask selections, and you can then manipulate each layer.
Yep.
So it's giving you the layer. So it's even more versatile than Midjourney was because of that. So you can play with the lighting, you can play with saturation, and anything else you can do on a Photoshop layer, which is almost infinite possibilities.
Yep.
Which is just great.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
It's going to change how we do this job. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer for concept artists, but I kind of feel like it's something that you can't ignore, and most concept artists should start using this as just as another tool for now, because if you ignore this and you're like, I don't want to touch that because like it's gonna affect my job one day, so I don't want to encourage them to use that. That is the wrong attitude to have.
Yeah, because that's the way the industry's going, unless something massive comes along to put a halt onto it. But it's always the early adopters when it comes to technology that win.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
So I think you should get on top of it quickly and be like, yeah, I use, put it in your CV. I use AI. I'm using the new. I mean,
you don't
Photoshop
need to put it in
editor.
your CV or anything. It just needs to be made aware of, so like people can start using it and just get it into your workflow as quickly as possible. Because I think this might be the next thing now. Is this idea of being able to make selections and really like fine tune absolutely everything that you want to. And the best thing about all of this is like none of this is destructive as well, right? So I can go back and go through any of these and be like, okay, I actually did like that one better, and also that hat, I kind of actually like that hat a bit better, and and I can just play around with that on the fly, and it's still just.
So you can change the combinations of things as well. It's like, well, that hat works best with those rings and that tie.
Yeah.
Whereas before the tie and the hat worked together, but with the rings, yeah. So you've got the options
for characterized, but I still think there's gonna be a need to like input something to begin with. For character artists, I'm not actually sure if that's the case even anymore. I think character artists are going to use this more than anyone, just being able to like go through and change clothing items like really really easily, and then just liquefy the body shape and then ask the AI to fill in all the details to sort of make it look proportionate and make it look realistic. It's sort of like you kind of. It's definitely gonna change some things, that's for sure. But yeah, it's a funny old world really that we're sort of going into. But yeah, I don't know.
What are you gonna put there? Dinosaur.
Don't know. So, toy. Dinosaur. See what happens. I don't know. But this is the thing, like it allows you to just play, or allows you to just like experiment and find out what you actually want to put in the image. It's not just about what you're stuck with and hunting around Google and trying to find the right sort of image or the right angle for the thing that you're trying to like fit in there and just try it out. Yeah, it looks a bit janky, but look at that.
That was good. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I like this one. But I mean, even like on the keyboard there, it's putting the shadow like from the
shadow, yeah,
from the tail, and that isn't there before.
And it's even changed the keys on the keyboard to make the image fit.
And it's also intelligent enough to see the edge of the chair there, and it's put it behind it, so it understands depth as well. And it also understands focal length, lighting, things like that. There's so many weird things that like you can just throw in there and just see how it goes and see what happens. But yeah, it's all, and it takes into account like what the shape of whatever you're sort of working with as well. The only real thing that you have to sort of keep in mind is where the horizon line is more than anything.
Okay.
Because if you understand perspective, then you can sort of make the right selection and really sort of hone in exactly what you want to do or where you want to put certain things. And it's capable of doing it. It just needs that first step of information. So it's not completely hands off. Like you still need to like know some stuff. You still need to have some basic understanding. But it completely removes that barrier. I mean,
oh my god, it's got the lighting the same as the frame above it. Oh my god.
But then you could go in and really figure out
and you can
like,
tweak
the perspective on it.
Wow.
So it's kind of nuts.
Deary me.
Yep, indeed. But it's going to change everything.
I think
it'll be kind of insane to ignore it for the most part. I think people should start really paying attention to stuff because it's gonna affect everything, especially in the indie scene. Because to be able to experiment and figure out what you want to put into your projects and stuff, it's pretty cool stuff. But also terrifying.
I'm going to use it with Midjourney probably. I generate some ideas from Midjourney, put it into Photoshop, and then manipulate the image to get it to finish it off to what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonkers. So yeah, everyone, let us know what you think in the comments. Usually some spicy, polarized opinions. Like some people are like properly pro, some people are against, and some people are kind of in the middle. Like I can use it for this, I can use it for that. So let us know what you think. Because when we do about AI stuff before, it gets a lot of comments.
For full sort of disclosure, it is. I am a concept artist myself. Like I'm going to be affected by this first. You know what I mean? Like I don't say any of this lightly. I'm not saying it's exciting or anything like that. It's just it is a sea change. It is going to change stuff. It'll be very, very silly for us to ignore it. That's ultimately what the message is. Like it's not really our opinion that it's a good thing or that it's exciting in any way. So just be aware of that when you start throwing hate at us in the comments. Like it's that's not what it's about. It's very much just
don't shoot the messenger.
Keeping an eye on it.
Yeah. We're just telling you about it and what it means.
Yeah, you gotta keep an eye on this sort of stuff.
Because we're not decision makers. We don't make any decisions in terms of like, we're just a couple of indie devs making our way through. So Nintendo Direct. Should we do that next?
Sure. Yeah. So Nintendo had a. Yeah, I was going to say, like, I know you didn't see it, but I sat down and I watched it with a friend of mine in Norwich. Shout out to Chungy. He, I sat down and watched it. It was fine. It was an okay Direct. I don't think it set the world on fire or anything. But I do get a sense that Nintendo is starting to ramp down their current generation. It does seem that new hardware is going to be on the horizon pretty much. Because it doesn't seem like they've got anything lined up which is industry defining breaking sort of thing. Like there's no new. Everyone was expecting like a full new sort of 3D Mario game. That didn't show. We got new Super Mario Brothers Wonder, it was called, which is a side scrolling Mario game, as you would expect from like the 3DS days, from the NES and the SNES, you know, those sorts of style games. Looks great, looks really, really stylized and fun. I'm definitely going to pick it up, but it's not like a full-featured 3D Mario game, which a lot of people were probably expecting. But we did get a little bit of that, though, because we also got a remake of Super Mario RPG, which I don't think anyone saw that one coming. It's a blast from the past, but it was originally on the Super Nintendo back in the 90s. It was co-developed by Nintendo and Square Enix, of all people, but it's basically a Mario game set in like the Final Fantasy style of game. It's got turn-based battles, you know, it's got a leveling system. It's a full-on RPG made by Square Enix, but licensed by Nintendo. But so it's a full remake of that, and both of them look great. Like, they were the two sort of big announcements from the show, though. I think like those were the ones that people came away with.
Yeah.
But like, did you see anything else like from afterwards, and sort of anything catch your eye?
Yeah, I saw the Mario elephant, and that kind of got the headlines. That's what did the rounds on Twitter, and people talking about the Mario RPG. That's what I heard on the grapevine. And then you've got other things. We could just quickly whiz through Pikmin 4. So that's the first time I've heard of Pikmin. WarioWare Move It. It's like a dance fitness thing. Detective Pikachu.
WarioWare is always interesting because it's basically, they have internal game jams at Nintendo, I believe, and then they throw them all together and put them into WarioWare almost. Well, that's how they start anyway. Like, obviously they still have to go through a whole round of polishing and stuff, but like, there's so many wacky, like, crazy ideas in those things that are just really weird, you know. So it's definitely worth a try if you're an indie dev anyway, because there's always like something in there that might catch your eye and be like, oh, that'd be cool as blah blah blah. I'm not saying straight up lift the ideas, but it sort of gets your brain working in a way where you're like, oh, that's interesting, that's boring, that's not fun, you know. But they package so many of them. There's usually like 30 of them or something in one game. So it's interesting, like little micro mini games almost, like tests.
Which again, Nintendo do really well. The micro mini game, they've got that down. So of all the people that I trust know Nintendo with that, that looks kind of cool. Just been checking that out. What else have we got? Detective Pikachu Returns.
There's another one of those, you're right.
So there's that. And Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet.
Yeah, they're just DLCs, I believe.
Just DLC stuff. Cool.
Yep.
And then there was... so that's kind of the major headlines from the Direct.
But overall, it was fine. It was an okay Direct, but like, it didn't really feel like an E3 style Direct. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't a lot to chew there. But the impression which I got from like other people online as well was that there's a lot of rumors flying around that Nintendo are about to start ramping, not sunsetting the Switch, but they're starting to make the transition to the next thing. They're going to start teasing it in investor meetings and stuff, and start talking about what the next sort of generation of hardware it's going to be. Generally speaking, though, like what Nintendo tend to do anyway is they'll sort of stick to a medium or a format for at least 2 generations anyway. So I wouldn't expect it to be completely different from the Switch. It's probably going to be akin to what a Switch Pro would be. It's probably just going to be more upgraded hardware, like the actual control scheme, like the tablet format which they've got going on. I can't see them deviating away from that at this point. Like, I can't. It's way too successful right now for them to be able to do that. So it's probably just going to be a beefier chipset, and hopefully that comes sooner rather than later, because that console it's dragging a little bit. You know, like the Switch is kind of it needs to have a little bit of an upgrade at some point.
Yeah. So you can't see them getting into like AR or VR or anything like that anytime soon.
I don't think so. It just doesn't really suit what they do, you know? Like, they're very traditional and conservative about everything that they do. So to be on the forefront of something, like, the technology needs to be good and well sorted out and really figured out before they invest into anything like that. Also needs to be built into the console as well, right? Like, having the console also be a VR headset. They tried that with the Switch. Like they've had like cardboard head-mounted displays where you can put your Switch into it and sort of play a VR game like that.
Yeah.
They've done experiments with that and it didn't really take off. So I don't think it's gonna kick off again unless the new Switch is like significantly smaller.
And they sunset technologies like the balance board. That was a big gamble, and some say it paid off, some say it didn't, depending on your point of view. And things like the 3DS Max, and you got like the hologram sort of screens and the double screen thing that that was successful, and then it wasn't, and then they ended it. So that's why I put that question out there, because Nintendo have a history of breaking the mold and doing something a bit left field and experimental, but also they have a track record of getting rid of things when it doesn't work.
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem to affect them that much.
Peripherals, I think that's true for peripherals. Like they'll have the main console and then they'll add like weird stuff with it. So they'll have like the balance board, but the actual Wii remote is like the big sort of thing, and that has never really gone away. I think that's why the Wii sort of failed so hard, is because it took that sort of motion controlness away from the console completely. So the Wii U just absolutely tanked because of that. It didn't have that sort of that welcoming vibe to it, because like people that don't generally play video games, like if they can just point something at a screen and waggle it around, they can tend to have a lot more fun straight off the bat versus like trying to figure out control schemes and all that sort of stuff. And the Switch reintroduced that a little bit with the detachable controllers basically that can move and have motion controls. So it still has that inviting sort of nature to it. So I can't see them messing with that too much. But yeah, like the balance board was a peripheral, right? Like the VR sort of tests that they've done in the past is a peripheral. So like I think they're much more experimental with their peripherals, but like having a headset for VR or AR for that matter, I can't really see them doing that much. I think they're much more inclined to wait for folks like Apple to try that stuff out, figure it out, and then partner with them. Like they did with Mario Run on the mobile, right? Like they've been making mobile games over the last few years, and I think people like Apple are the ones that are going to sort of steamroll ahead with that stuff, and that's when they're going to sort of dip into their ecosystem rather than create their own almost. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see either way. Like I'm definitely curious to see what they have for the next generation of hardware, just purely because it needs it. Like if you've tried to go into the storefront on the Switch, it is just a chuggy, slow mess. Like it's awful. Like it's not fun. And the games are really starting to sort of chug a little bit. Like Tears of the Kingdom came out this year, and that's got some bits in it. It doesn't matter what they do, how much they patch that game, it's going to have points where it's just, oh, you're going into that town, it's going to be 20 FPS. Deal with it. And it's like that's where the console's sort of at, and I think it's getting a bit long in the tooth. But generally, the wider audience, I don't think they really care, especially the Nintendo audience. So take what I say with a grain of salt.
They can forgive 20 FPS in a town. Yeah,
they do. They just generally don't care. So it's a funny old one. Like no matter how much you try and predict, like I would ask you, like, oh, what do you think the next Nintendo console is going to be, or what do you think they're going to change? Like just you never know in Nintendo. Like they'll announce it at the weirdest time with the weirdest stuff in the weirdest way, and you're like, no way that's going to work, and then it just explodes, and it's like, okay. And then the things that you think that are going to be a surefire bet, like people saw the Wii U when that first came out and was like, that the hardware looks good. Like the name is a bit weird, but it at least it's up to scratch with the Xbox 360 and stuff, and people can get on board with that. And it just tanked, and it's just like you never know with them. So I'm not even going to try and predict.
That reminds me of what happened after the Xbox Direct with Starfield. They were saying that Starfield's going to be capped at 30 FPS, and there were some diehard fans that were like, "Oh, it's ridiculous! I can't believe it this day and age." And it's like, but look how many sandwiches you can fit on a desk, And it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't have all the sandwiches on a desk, or you can't make any spaceship you want made of however many pieces. There probably will be a maximum, but you
people want their cake and eat it.
Yeah, you can't have like 4K, assets and 60 FPS. It's just not feasible yet, which is the technology.
Well, they can. That's the thing.
But on a PC,
like the thing, exactly right. So the thing that annoys me about that whole debate was that it was just another point for PC gamers to like sort of dunk on the console market a little bit, which is fine. Whatever, like do what you need to do to make yourself feel better. Like I get it. Yeah, it's all good. But like if you care that much about frame rate, then you're generally a PC player anyway. And if you're not, then you're a masochist, right? Like if you've got a Nintendo Switch and you're complaining about frame rate, then
and it's a single player game.
That's your sole console.
Yeah, there's no competitive advantage. It's just purely aesthetics, and therefore,
which I get it. But if you're on the PC and you've got a massive rig, it will run in 60 FPS or 120 or whatever. Like you'll be fine. Like it's not going to affect you. Like the only people that this affects is the people that are on Series X. That's it. And who knows, they might patch it or figure out a way or turn down some of the dials and introduce like a settings thing.
Yeah, only 5 sandwiches per really table allowed, and then you can run it at 60 FPS.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think I don't think it's actually a problem. As long as it's locked at 30, you know what I mean? If it goes to 29 FPS, sure, then we can have a discussion, and really start talking about like, okay, how far does it dip? Does it actually affect the game at that point? Because once it goes below 30, then it's like, okay, now it's actually starting to affect
visible
game play.
You can actually see it.
It's hard to play the game. But before, like anything beyond that, it's just whatever. Sure, it's your opinion. You're entitled to it. That's fine. But if you care about frame rate that much, then you're a PC gamer anyway, and you'll be fine.
And this thing you ask PC gamers, you say, well, can your rig actually do 60 FPS? And then they're always like, no. Anyway. Well, not my rig now, but it will. That's always the case, I find. I think I saw that on a meme and I was like, yeah, that is totally true. PC gamers are always like, oh, I can do it on 60 FPS. But can your rig do it? No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. It's just not a fair comparison, in my opinion. Like a video game console costs you in the US anyway. It'll cost you $500, right, for a console, brand new. With that brand new console, like you're guaranteed it's gonna hit 30. At best, like sometimes, like a good 50% of the time these days anyway, like it'll hit 60, which is great. Like without ray tracing on or anything like that, it'll go to 60. Awesome. And then you have to ask yourself, like, okay, how much money do you have to spend to get to 60 FPS on every single game on a PC? I bet it's at least double that, at least, right? So if where you are spending $500, like you have to spend like at least $1,200 just to get to 60 FPS, and that's just on like medium settings. And like even though the frame rate's higher, it might not look as good. So then how much does it actually cost to get it to like high settings 60 FPS? Like I don't know the exact. I know it's not an exact science and it's not one-to-one sort of thing, but it's always significantly more. Like it's harder to sort of justify that, and then it's just not comparable in my opinion. Like it's a different kettle of fish. And when you're paying double, like you should get double the frame rate, but you shouldn't dog on people that haven't got a PC just because they can't get to the same FPS as you.
Well, this is it. They're a lot of the time paying more than double. It's like several £1,000s for a decent game rig.
I mean, if it's your hobby, right? Like people will spend like $2-3 grand on a rig, and it's like cool. Like that's great for you. You're like, oh my god, look how amazing my frame rate is at 4K, sort of thing. It's like, sweet, I'm really happy for you, but like I don't care.
You must be really happy.
You know what I mean? Like it's just not. Yeah, I really don't care, because in a few years' time, we're gonna get all sorts of like crazy upsampling stuff, like mainstream within consoles anyway, and we're gonna be able to play games at like 720p upscale to 8K, and it's gonna look pristine. You know what I mean? Like when that happens, all of this need for new extra hardware is just going to diminish over time.
Well, this AI stuff is going to be doing up-resing stuff, and it's going to be faking ray tracing and all this sort of stuff, because we can see that the AI can look at an image and tell where the sun's coming from, or tell where the points, like the light source, is coming from, and make changes to pixels accordingly. So AI is going to be faking ray tracing. So ray tracing will go out the window, and it'll just be done with AI soon.
Yeah, like ray tracing, it's also going to be... I don't know if we're quite there for ray tracing, but definitely stuff like ambient occlusion, I think, is the next step. First it's going to be resolution, then it's going to be the ambient occlusion, then we're going to start seeing other things like the anti-aliasing stuff, like is obviously already there, but it's just going to get better and better and better, and it's going to need less and less hardware, but the hardware is also getting better at the same time, so we're able to stretch that, and that gap is just going to get smaller, so we'll be able to do a lot more with a lot less, which is great. Like that's what we want, but it's also really bad for PC gamers that are like out there justifying this stuff. But at the same time, if you give games developers more power, they'll use it. So there's always going to be this chase, as it were, and PCs are always going to be further ahead because you're paying triple the amount. Like you should get triple the performance, absolutely, but you get what you pay for. But I like being a console gamer. I like sitting on the sofa. I like having a controller in my hand. Yeah. That's just me though, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the same. I do like playing PC games every now and again, but it depends on the game. Yeah. Right, and then what's the last thing? Final Fantasy 16. You've not played it. I've not played it.
I've not, but everyone else is. Reviewed very well. People are talking about it as a Game of the Year contender, which is really exciting. I do want to play it. My PlayStation 5 isn't with me at the moment, though, so I have to sort of deal with the envy. Like I've joined like all of the rest of the world that doesn't have a PS5. I'm in your boat, Chris. Which I do have a PS5. I just don't have access to it right now.
It's in a box somewhere. So are you just playing your Switch at the moment then?
Yeah, I've got my Switch and I've got my Series X. Just pure. The reason why I brought my Series X has got nothing to do with my affiliation to Xbox. It's everything to do with the fact that the console is smaller than what the PS5 was, and because I'm traveling around at the moment, it fits in my suitcase. The PS5 does not, because the PS5 is a big old box. Like that thing is not compact.
Yeah,
it's not compact whatsoever. So yeah, I've still got plenty to play though. So I'm not itching at the walls or anything. There's still plenty to get through. But yeah, speaking of Xbox though, they're in court again. And so are PlayStation actually. So the FTC ruling, which is the American authority board for the Activision and Blizzard sort of acquisition deal, they're suing actively Xbox, which sounds scary, but it's actually like standard. So they're basically asking them to come in and sort of justify the purchases and sort of see where it lands and what damage it's going to do. Is it a monopoly, all that sort of stuff. So it's gone through the same sort of system as what it went through in the UK. But it's definitely going Xbox's way a little bit on this one, I think, just purely because everything that PlayStation is sort of saying is it's kind of silly, doesn't really make sense, and Xbox are sort of countering it quite well with their sort of statement saying that they're going to keep things like Call of Duty on PlayStation. Like if it's like that, if that's what the problem is, then they're going to sort of stick to that as much as they humanly possibly can, and if they say it in court, then they can actively get sued if they go against that. So
if they go against
it seems to be going in Xbox's favor, but it's the way that it went with the CMA in the UK, like it was definitely going Xbox's way that time as well. So you never know.
It was
remains to be seen.
Yeah, and then we got that shock decision from the British version that blocked it.
Yeah,
so.
Ultimately, I do think it's going to go through. It's all of this is just delay. That's all, because it's all still in active litigation. Even with the CMA stuff, right? They're still actively like trying to do it. Even though the UK have said no, it's still happening. Like they're still making negotiations and coming up with different tactics around it. It's just going to take time.
Yeah,
but yeah, it could be a really good year for Xbox next year though, if it all goes through properly and with all the games that they've got coming out. It could be a very, very big year for them.
They got some really cool games coming out. I'm really looking forward to that.
Indeed.
Yeah, Xbox Game Pass is going to be the place to be in the next few months.
Absolutely.
So watch this space.
I believe so.
So you've been playing anything else? Still playing Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, still playing Tears of the Kingdom. Been playing a little bit more of Battlefield 2042. 2042? Yeah, it's 2042.
2042.
Very standard shooter. I enjoy it though. It's fun. Like just very Battlefieldy, as sort of mentioned last time. haven't really been playing anything else, so I think that's about it. Like, I've mostly been working. But how about yourself? Have you got anything on your list that you've been chipping through?
No. I'm going to get the Star Wars Jedi Survivor eventually, but I've just been super busy with like moving stuff and...
Yeah, it's on my list too.
Yeah, so I want to play that. But yes, I haven't played much of the Breath of the Wild yet. But I'm enjoying it, as I said before, I'm enjoying it a hell of a lot more now that I've got my horse and I know where I'm supposed to go. I just stay on the path and I don't die. That's fine. As long as I stay on the path, I'm alive and I've got my horse, it's fine.
Yeah, I just don't think you like freedom, that's all. Like, if you're told what to do, I think you're happier, almost.
I no. Important distinction. I don't like walking through a field that has no danger signs and no like turn back, you aren't powered enough for this area yet, or like the environmental storytelling. It's a lovely green open field. You walk it and you're about a few minutes into the run into the field because you're trying to get something you can see in the distance, and then a laser beam just comes out of nowhere and kills you. I don't like that.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Like, fire a couple of warning shots as soon as I get off the path first. That's what I'd like. Or like the robot to be like, I'm guarding this area, you go away. And I'll be like, okay. And like engage me before I'm halfway across the field.
Right.
That's what I'd like.
You don't like getting killed. You don't like losing, basically.
No, I hate it.
Fair.
I hate it. It does something to me. What can I say? I grew up in, Sonic. Grew up on Sonic. Dying is bad.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, that's everything though, I think.
Yeah. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Are you scared out of your mind about the Photoshop beta? You panicking? Oh no, it's coming.
No.
Have we missed anything? What do you think about the Nintendo Direct and the Activision deal? Let us know. And also like the video and subscribe if you want to see more of this content, because we do it for you. And for us, for marketing for our games, because we're making some indie games.
Speaking of which, where can we find yours, Chris?
So I'm making a game called Focus Find, and you can wishlist it on Steam. And you can Google Focus Find or Acrylic Pixel, which is what I make things under, and you'll find my Twitter and YouTube and hopefully a website soon. And all of the things, and a TikTok and the Instagram, yada, yada, yada. It's a 2D mystery narrative game about a man and losing his family. What about you? What are you making?
I'm not smiling or laughing at that, but yeah. You can find my game called Long Gone on Steam. You can wishlist it. You can also follow me and everything that I'm doing around the game. Just search for @HillFortGames. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm all over the place. So come and give me a follow, and you can see where I'm up to with the game. I am working on it actively at the moment. Like, there's a lot of artwork getting done. I'm currently putting all the vines in the game, which is, it's actually a lot more challenging than I thought. Like, technically making leaves and vines and stuff it's really hard to look good in pixel art and in 3D at the same time. But it's I think I'm making some headway now, though. It's definitely making some progress. But yeah.
And you can't do that yet. Have you tested that with Photoshop Generative Fill? Or Midjourney?
No,
like, pixel art vines, go.
That is the great thing about pixel art, is that it's gonna take a while for AI to really figure out pixel art. So
yeah,
I think pixel art is safe for the time being. So if you want to be an indie dev, then make a pixel art game, I guess, because it's AI can't really use that. Or lean all the way into AI. I guess that'd be the easier way of doing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm probably going to do.
Fair enough.
Right, yeah, until next time then, we'll see you soon.
Indeed. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.